Welcome to the latest episode of the MFG Radio Network's Manufacturing Matters, where industry experts take deep dives into the latest technologies you need to consider to keep manufacturing moving. Our latest roundtable discussion: investing and adopting automation in manufacturing is no longer an option. I'm Jake Kaufman, the associate editor for the manufacturing group at GIE Media. Our panel of automation experts are standing by, waiting to answer questions about how to enable new automation technologies to reduce production times and costs, increase quality management and revenues, and exceed safety goals. But first, we would like to thank today's sponsors, Makino, SMW Autoblock, and Murata Machinery. Makino is the industry leader in machinery design and digital innovation, introducing game-changing solutions for premium performance. Makino produces accurate and high-quality metal cutting and EDM machines, HMCs, VMCs, 5-axis machining centers, graphite machining centers, and wire and sinker EDMs. SMW Autoblock is a work holding company focused on achieving customers' goals and expectations with the highest quality products and services. SMW Autoblock combines stocked standard product with a highly trained sales, service, and engineering team to consistently provide the ideal work holding solutions to customers across a wide variety of industries. The organization strives to achieve a deeper understanding of customers' needs to provide products and services geared towards specific customer applications, maintaining long-term mutually beneficial partnerships to enhance machine tools and drive modern manufacturing. And Murata Machinery USA is a subsidiary of Murata Machining Limited, a world leader in machine tool technology, automated material handling systems, clean room automation, and textile machinery. Established in 1935, Murata Machinery is the sole manufacturer of the Miratech brand, which is synonymous with industrial automation and reliability across our extensive product line. Murata Machinery USA provides globally advanced solutions tailored to the needs of the North American manufacturer. Each of their solutions uses time-tested technology and is customized at their Charlotte, North Carolina office, providing customers with turnkey solutions to meet exact needs. And before we get to hear from our panelists today, we'll get to see them and hear a little bit about them. Jeff Kalmbach is an experienced manufacturing leader with an extensive background in machinery or in engineering, operations, services, automation, and customer interactions. Jeff joined Murata Machinery USA, Miratech, in 2006 as an engineering manager for the machine tools division, and has held various positions within the company before moving to the position of general manager of the machine tools division. Jeff leads all aspects of Murata Machinery's machine tool business in North America, comprising Miratech's turning and fabrication business unit. Miratech's turning business unit focuses on extensive lines of CNC turning machines and high-speed automation, while the company's fabrication business specializes in applications, service, and sales of turret punch presses and fiber lasers. And then also Larry Robbins joins us once again. He is the president of the commercial division at SMW Autoblock. Larry joined SMW Autoblock in 2007 as the national sales manager and recently was appointed president in 2019. As president for SMW Autoblock's commercial division, Larry is responsible for all strategic sales and marketing initiatives, as well as overseeing SMW Autoblock's North America sales team and customer base. It includes machine tool dealers and OEMs. He oversees various projects internationally. Larry has over 35 years of experience in machine tool manufacturing, and prior to working for SMW Autoblock, he owned a successful manufacturer's rep company for 13 years. Larry's expertise in the machining industry began in his early youth when he worked side by side with his father, who owned a prosperous distributorship in New York. So, gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us today. Very nice to meet you, Jeff, and very nice to see you once again, Larry. We will begin today's discussion with Jeff as we ask about automation, as it's something that has been in factories for quite some time and on shop floors, probably longer than most people would expect. So when was the first time, Jeff, that you experienced automation in the shop floor or in the industry here?
I would say the first time that my exposure to automation was in my, more senior years in school, doing some co-ops and internships. But I guess the one that comes to mind the most was, in my first job as a junior engineer, learning to how lathes work, and thinking back, an automated lathe was actually a 16 station dial Bullard machine, very antiquated machine. But if you look back at that, that's really automation, as the part moved across 16 different stations around a rotary dial. Although the part was loaded into the machine manually by an operator, adjustments for cutting were manual, but moving that part through the different operations, that was automation. I would say that was the first exposure I had to it in practicality.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Always saw robots, but never really had experience with them at that point.
Awesome. Well, Larry, we will go to you with the same question. When was your first experience dealing with automation in the industry?
When my grandfather yelled at me in his mold shop and told me I wasn't moving fast enough to get a second guy to help me. It was as a young man. I think my first exposure was actually, and I'll date myself now, was with a pantograph machine, where they would take an existing mold and trace it, and that was like industries changing and earth shattering. But it was a much more advanced way of producing a part and reproducing a part accurately and repeatably, with a lot of human intervention at that point. But at the same point, you were going much faster in the process than making something from scratch. I probably didn't see robots. I think the first robot I saw is when I went away to college, and it was pie in the sky at that point. It was new technology. Again, I'm dating myself, but it was newer technology. And automation, most people think of automation as, something standing in front of a machine and making that machine work without an operator. It's not actually, that's not true at all. There's still a lot of operator intervention, and that's kind of where we still come from too. We don't want to displace people. We just want to show them how to do it better and faster and easier.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we will stay with you. When it comes to SMW Autoblock, what are the products and technology solutions that you guys provide that can be automated?
Oddly enough, right before this whole seminar started, I said to Jeff, for 30 years, we were a chuck company, and that's what we sold, was chucks. Our idea of automation at that point which was actually my first real exposure, was handing off from a main to a sub spindle, from chuck to chuck. But reality is, as time has progressed and as we've progressed as a company, we've gotten more and more into the automation arena, from the standpoint of now we make robotic end effectors, and we make some things that are very specialized, that rotate 360 degrees without worrying about clips or wires breaking. We have componentry that now is electronically driven and feeds back. Not only can you wirelessly feed power from the machine to the work holding implement, now you have the ability to control that work holding implement automatically by probing a part, telling it where the part is. The chuck automatically offsets the part to where it belongs, and you start your production process. In the simplest of terms, that's our version of automation. It's because we're, again, a work holding company. We surround that part, where Murata has much more of an integrated, where they create their own automation, gantry systems, or robotics outside the machine, or again, very simplistic cobots, robots. But it all works hand in hand to make it successful and complete.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So Jeff, will kind of ask you the same question as far as the products, technologies, and solutions. What can be automated, or also, worked into an automated system that you guys produce at Murata or with Miratech?
As far as Murata Machinery's products, it's kind of an interesting question, because automation is really the core of all of the products that we provide. We're an automation solutions provider, so our products are automation. It's kind of strange to say that, but it is automation, and it's combining the things that Larry mentioned from a work holding standpoint, and putting them into a solution that provides a robust and reliable and efficient and productive solution to meet a customer's needs with our products. And one unique thing about Murata is our products. We not only are providing products within the machine tool realm with lathes and punch press machines, but we also provide automation when it comes to moving material and storing material. We mentioned earlier about textile machinery, processing of thread and yarn for the shirts and clothing that we're wearing today. That's again the core of the products that we provide.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So we'll stay with you for our next question. Now, what processes can actually be automated to the point where when you're out there, what do you see as far as an automated process? How many different pieces can be worked in?
When it comes to a manufacturing facility, I think the question maybe lies more what can't you automate. I've seen a lot of cool things. There's a lot of development in technology of automation. So, maybe it's more focusing on what can't be automated and then finding a way to automate it. But nowadays, it's difficult not to find anything that is not able to be automated within the manufacturing operation. I know that's kind of a scapegoat answer to a question, but that for me, it's difficult to find anything that in the realm that we deal with on a daily basis from a manufacturing standpoint that is not able to be automated.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So Larry, I'll essentially ask you the same question as well, but when it does come time to the manufacturing process, what are things that can be automated and what is, like Jeff said, the things that, you've seen that have not been able to been automated so far?
I think generally the limitation is the customer's ability to envision automating a process that has typically been an operator standing in front of a machine, loading the machine, checking to make sure their coordinates are correct, checking to make sure they don't have intrusions or collisions. You have to make a customer understand the value of the integration of automation in their facility. And again, Jeff hit the nail on the head. It's easier to say what can't be automated because that changes based on the application, the customer, the equipment they're using. Are they willing to invest more money? There's so many different parameters that it's almost a question that's almost impossible to answer. And I say that I don't want to sound like I can't answer the question, but at the same point, it's one of those questions that it's limited to the customer's ability to have the understanding of how it'll help their operation. You could deal with two customers that have exactly the same product that process them two totally different ways. It's what I've always loved about what we do. I could see the same product 5 times and it's made 5 totally different ways. I've said to people, if I'm not learning something every day, that's when I know it's time for me to retire. Because I've been doing this is my 42nd year, which again, just makes me old. But at the same time, I've seen so many things that have changed over time. And, I feel like I sound like my grandfather and then my father after that. I think the next generation will see things that are automated that we never envisioned. I think we're starting to see it from the standpoint of autonomous vehicles. That's a form of automation. Mm-hmm. The ability to have your phone repeat an alarm day after day. That's automation. Most people think of automation as a robot picks up a part, puts it somewhere else, moves to the. It can be just about anything. And Jake, here comes the word. As long as you build flexibility into your system, automation will work in most applications. But again, it depends on the customer's ability to understand that automation is going to help them not change the way they process, but it's going to change the way they process part for the better, hopefully. So
awesome. Thank you, Larry. So when it does come to an automated process, are you seeing customers are using automation more for the actual manufacturing of that part, or is it more of the material handling of that part once it has been produced?
I think it's a combination of all of the above. I think if automation is set up correctly, it'll automatically feed, it'll automatically be fed into the machine, it'll automatically be checked to make sure it's in position. You'll have feedback from cutting tools to make sure you don't have a broken tool. Again, there's so many different forms of automation that the customer has to, again, have the ability to understand where they're going to gain value. automation is seen throughout the entire process. It's not just pick and place. It's not just putting in a chuck. It's not just putting it on a machine table. It's not just loading in a fixture. It's all the steps there and in between, all the way down to moving the part from raw stock to manufacturing to next process to inspection. If you can do that automatically and you take the human error part out of it, a robot doesn't call in sick. A gantry doesn't, have a headache. A gripper's kids don't, a gripper's kids don't get the flu. So reality is it gives you a reliable, dependable way to produce a product with predictable quality and outcome.
Now, Jeff, will go to you for the same kind of question with Murata. Is it mostly the actual process of making the part that is automated, or is it everything involving the product material handling afterwards?
So I would say, for myself specifically, my core products that are sold through my business unit is the machine tools. So we are heavily involved with the manufacture part of making something or making a part. But as a company and as a automation solution provider, it's much broader than just the physical processing and the true manufacture of that part. So like Larry mentioned, automation it happens, we say, throughout the supply chain. We're able to automate from bringing raw material into the facility, automatically storing it, automatically picking it and moving it to a production machine when the time comes, processing it through that production machine, feeding it to the machine, making sure the machine is making money, and that when those spindles are turning, that's when the magic happens and the money is being made. After machining, again, after the production of the parts, handling of those parts, inspection, putting them back into inventory, and then finally distribution out beyond the facility. Automation across that entire supply chain is really where it's happening.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff. So with our next question, when it does come time for automation, are you seeing it being used to kind of make up for a lost workforce, or is it more being used as to make the current workforce the most efficient?
I really think it could be both in those cases. Right now, I think everyone today is dealing with the challenge of finding resources and the labor pool challenges that everyone is seeing. So certainly automation is there and able to support that. But automation is also, making people's lives easier through manufacturing operations, maybe making it safer for someone to process a heavy part. So I think automation is certainly impacting both sides of that, making it more efficient, along with helping.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. Challenges when it comes to finding people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeff. So Larry, same question to you then. Are you seeing automation being used to kind of make up for a lost workforce when it comes to your customers, or is it being used to help with the efficiency and productivity of the current workforce?
I think, like Jeff said, it's yes.
Yeah.
It's both, and
all of the above.
Here's the deal: as we experience, moving forward with next generations, as we lose some of the educational ability to get people to understand that manufacturers are an integral part of the growth of this country and how this country's grown. I truly believe that it's going to complement for a lack of skill base, but at the same point, it's going to enhance the safety, the reliability, the repeatability, the flexibility. Again, I'm working that word in.
That's twice.
Again, as long as you have the ability to make people understand this is not being put in place to displace workers. It's being put into place to keep that workforce competitive so we can compete with overseas entities that have either government subsidies. Wow, excuse that. Where they're subsidized by their governments, and all sorts of different factors that make automation, help to keep your competitive edge there, give you predictable quality, give you predictable reliability, give you the ability to plan in advance, and have the ability to now know what your capacities are, not only with the human intervention, but with the reliability of a robotic or a automation style setup.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Do you think there's potential here for eventually, our labor to grow their skill? Automation is a way in order for automation to be successful, the skilled labor force has got to be much stronger. So, I see a lot of times in my mind, it's very important that our labor force continues to grow in that skill set to be able to support and operate and maintain these types of automation systems that we're seeing today.
Jeff, that's a really good point. And there's a perfect example. And you kind of grew up where that example started in Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan lost, what was it, 15 years ago, 698,000 manufacturing jobs. They are now going to require, and I was just reading this, over the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to need between 700,000 and 800,000, what they're calling production people. The difference is going to be, you're going to have a college degree.
Mhm.
You're going to have automation experience. You're going to have to know how to program and change automation on the fly. There's never going to be a contract where a guy who runs a drill press makes $300,000 or $150,000 a year for his last 3 years, and that's what his retirement is based on. They said you will start out at $80,000 and you'll probably cap out about $135,000. But at that point, again, Jeff, to your point, educating your workforce, they're telling people that as long as you're willing to adapt to the new way of manufacturing, there's always going to be manufacturing jobs. It's just not going to be the typical getting your hands dirty, cutting your fingers, scraping chips out of it. That's all going to be automated in the future. And I think, to your point, Jeff, that's actually an excellent point.
I'd see a big way of making it more efficient for the skilled workers.
Absolutely agree.
Awesome, guys. Well, speaking of efficiency, we obviously talk a lot about the industrial Internet of Things, the Industry 4.0. So when it does come time to collect data, how can that data then be used in an automation process? Larry, we'll start with you on this one.
I think the ability to take the data and use it to your advantage to make improvements is the biggest stumbling block that we see right now. As I've spoken about in past seminars, we've developed a product now that has the ability to wirelessly transmit power to work holding implements, whether it be a chuck, a vise, a robotic end effector, soon to be swing clamps. We're trying to take a process that's already been proven, improve it, give them, again, predictable outcomes, but at the same time, give them improvements in their reliability and their quality. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So yeah, Jeff, same question to you then with Murata. How are you using data in the automation process? How is it kind of being worked into the whole process?
So much like Larry mentioned, data is an important part of everyone's activities on a daily basis. As an engineer, I like to make decisions based on data, and some people think I'm a little strange for that because I ask a lot of questions, but in any case, data helps us make decisions and make sure that our business is moving in the right direction. Data helps us make decisions on where things need to be adjusted, and in much the same way with automation, data drives maybe where we need to automate something, where something should be automated, or maybe it doesn't make sense to automate.
Awesome.
Along with the general automated data transfer within manufacturing operation with ERP systems and giving instructions on what should be done for the day. So data certainly plays a big part for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So the next question is, if a client does call Murata up and they want to, buy all of their new automation equipment for their factory, their shop floor, what are the things that you guys have to make sure they have in place in order for that automation process to be a successful one?
Well, I think Larry kind of mentioned it a few minutes ago, and I'm not trying to steal his thunder here, but I think the biggest thing for someone that is new to automation or maybe trying to understand it is really having that vision of where do they want to be? Where do they see automation being applied? Where do they want to be 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now? If they have that vision, then, you know, from our standpoint as a solution provider that, you know, automation is what we do. That's where we are able to come in and really help them nail down where they're trying to do things, where they're trying to implement automation, what are some solutions, what are some ideas that we can provide with, you know, to get them where they want to go. So for me, I think the first step is really that vision, and having that vision, and then eventually change is hard. So getting the buy-in from the teams, from your leadership teams, there's got to be buy-in that this is the way to go. Eventually through your operations, that automation is where we're going.
Awesome. Now, Jeff, is there anything like physically that would have to be in place in order for the automation to work? As far like, could you technically set up a process that's automated, you know, in a desert? Like, what are the things like in the environment that need to be there for the automation to be installed?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, with the products that we sell in the machine tool world, any wherever we're installing a machine today, it can be automated today. So, you know, the basic infrastructure behind a manufacturing facility, whether it's a fabricator or a chip cutting facility, that the basic infrastructure there, if it's existing already, automation can be easily applied.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So Larry, I'll ask you the same question. When it comes time to have a new client call into SMW Autoblock and say that, you know, they have automation on their mind, what are the things that you tell them have to be in place for it to work out?
I think one of the most important things, and Jeff kind of hit on it, is you have to have a buy-in from the top all the way to the bottom. If you have a buy-in at the top and the people on the shop floor don't want it to work, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to work. We've all been around, and I hate to use the word sabotage, but we've all been around situations where operators don't want to make change because it's change is hard for everyone. Any change that changes the way they did something today and made it different than they did it yesterday is met with, well, it worked before. Why are we changing? Why are we building a better mousetrap? Because if we don't build a better mousetrap, someone else will. I mean, there's so many examples of top-down forcing automation. When you have the buy-in from the shop floor to the top floor, kind of corny and cheesy, but it's true. If you get the guy on the shop floor to understand that automation is going to improve his life and his lifestyle and his ability to predictably produce this many parts every day, it takes the guesswork out of planning and moving to the next step. You know, a lot of times, you know, again, people envision automation as displacing, and Jeff hit the nail on the head again. If you don't educate your workforce and you don't have a better educated workforce who understand that if we don't change with what needs to change to make us more competitive worldwide, we're going to get lost. And I think that we've already started to discover that we are not a service industry. You know, when I grew up, McDonald's was a part-time job, not a career. And now service, but even look at that from an automation standpoint. McDonald's built a business on automating a process no one else saw the need to automate. He might have stolen the information if you believe the movies or books, but I don't care how you got it. Guess what? He saw the value in automating the ability to make hamburgers and milkshakes and French. Again, nothing to do with chip cutting or metal fabricating. But again, another example of automation is not just in what we do. it's in everything in our lives, all the way down to look at how you clean your house now, Roombas and, you know, everything's from your phone and you can turn your heat up and down. It's all automation. And people look at automation as a robot. Automation that's a very small part of automation. Automation is anything that makes a process more predictable and more reliable, and in my opinion, at least.
And in the manufacturing side, maybe gives you more parts at the end of the day, more
Exactly.
parts on the dock,
Mhm.
efficient, reliable, and more parts.
Got to say flexibility that in
And
there
with
too, for
flexibility.
And
yeah,
flexible.
and flexible.
So
I'm gonna
three
get a
things.
t-shirt that just says flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, would that change at all if it is a current client who already has an automation system and they want to expand it? Would the message that you send to an existing client looking to expand automation be different than a client wanting to start brand new? Larry, I'll give you that question to begin with.
They already see the value of automation. They might not understand that it's not just pick and placing parts or handing off from a main to a subspindle. Automation could be something as simple as we now automated and we have a conveyor that brings our parts to the machine. Then we have a load system that loads them onto a station where they're clocked so that when they're picked up and moved to a spindle, they're in the right orientation for the spindle. Again, it could be a bakery, it could be a metal cutting facility, it could be sheet metal. You know, Jeff, my first idea of automation in sheet metal was when they came up with sheet separators and it was automatically loaded. It was a simple idea, but it was industry changing.
Mhm.
So again, automation, if someone already has it, they already understand the value. Sometimes they don't know how to go to the next step. And that's where when an expert comes in and says to them, I can improve your process. I can give you more parts at the end of the day. Jeff, I just stole that from you. I can give you more parts at the end of the day, and I can give you better quality because now, again, there's in-part process, and Murata's one of the biggest at this, creating their own in-process gauging. Your ability now to gauge a part before you finish it, so you don't waste all these operations on a part that's already scrapped. Again, another form of automation. So people have to have an open mind and have the ability to understand that every time they automate a process, it takes the guesswork out of it. And it allows them to move on to another problem area where they're probably going to automate it all the way down to software. I mean, you know, we have automation in our own company of order processing now, where it goes directly from an incoming order to a portal to a person to assign it to a person. Before that was carrying a piece of paper to one guy, he would carry it to another guy, and 3 days later, we finally processed the order. Now it happens in seconds. So again, there's all different kinds of automation.
Yeah, business process automation and making things more efficient. And
Yeah.
like you said, it's not just in the manufacturing world, but it's also saving those steps and saving that waste in a business process.
Yeah. Sure, because it all relates to profitability in the end. Let's face it.
Mhm.
And that's, Jeff, you know as well as
Like
I
you said,
do.
how do we do more with less, or how do we do more with what we have? And
Yeah, I agree.
how do we become more efficient? How do we provide a more efficient process?
I mean, it's without profits,
Mm.
companies don't prosper. I mean,
Correct.
and profitability is propagated a lot of times by having the foresight to automate a process that is automatable. I mean, if you see something that can be automated and you decide to ignore that, that might be you losing your job at some point, because somebody else is going to come up with the idea and they're going to become the superstar. I'm not saying that I'm a superstar, but you know, I would rather be the guy that takes the chance and says, why don't we try this, than the guy that goes, that's a great idea. You know, it's kind of nice to be in that position. So.
Awesome. So Jeff, I will start the next question with you. Once a process has been automated or you have an entire automation system in place, if you did decide, oh, we need to slow this down, speed this up, we need to add another machine, how easy is it to make a change to the operation? Is it something that you can do simultaneously, or is there a downtime in order to, you know, automate it back to whatever the new specifications would be?
Well, I think that ties back to the buzzword that I've been hearing floating around here, which is flexibility. You know, I- it- And again, I think that goes back to initially how a process or how a system or a solution was, installed and deployed in the first place. I know from our side, more on the machinery side, when we look at an automation solution for a customer, we are always looking and asking the customer, what are you planning to do with this later? Are there other ideas you have? And those are things that we take into account on the front end during the design phase and during the initial installation and setups to make sure that they can be successful down the road with this automated system. I think automation over the years has got kind of a bad rap for being very fixed, very only for high volume production. You can run 10 million parts and that's it. But automation has evolved and it is much more flexible today than it ever has been. And I think that trend will continue. It has to. Gone are the days, I think, of these manufacturers that produce 10 million of the same part. They need to be able to adapt to the needs of the demands that they're seeing and quickly change over or quickly adjust to something.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So Larry, I'll ask you the same question. Once the process has been automated, how easy do you see it being to change something, whether it be adding, slowing something down, speeding something up? What is the process like when it does come time to change an automation system?
Again, I think it takes the customer to have an open mind and be able to realize that they're going to see an advantage from automating a process or changing the automation on a process to update their process, to bring it up to today's standards. If Jeff hit the nail on the head, people thought of robots or automation as a robot. It was very rigid. It was, you were doing 20 million parts or 10 million parts and higher. I sat through a seminar a year ago, right about now, talking about if you're not looking at single part automation in your facility, you're missing the boat. And, knowing Jeff for a lot of years and Jeff knowing our operation pretty well, a lot of what we do is one-offs. It is something we are investigating right now, is automating our operations to the point where we're going to no longer have a guy loading a part. It'll be a robot load a part. We're going to have more automation in our programming and things like that, where it's all going to be done offline instead of manual data input. I mean, that's, that was done in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And I still am amazed when I walk out to a machine and see a guy altering a program standing there while he could be running parts. And for us, running one of something, it's very expensive. I mean, if you run 10 million of something, after a while, you get really good at it. You work the bugs out, you change tooling, you change feeds and speeds. For us, we might make this a similar part 15 times, but every part is a little different. Every material is a little bit different. Every application is different. Customer has to realize that just because they don't do high production doesn't mean they can't automate in some way, shape, or form and get a predictable, again, flexible, and more economical throughput while getting more parts again than you were getting originally. Even if you're doing one, if I can do it faster with less people involved, and I don't want to take people out of it, but again, if I have something that repeats its position within thousandths or tenths, it's not a guy whose hands might shake or, he had too many drinks the night before and he's a little off. So again, a robot doesn't have a hangover. A robot doesn't have a baby. A robot didn't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because their kid was screaming.
Doesn't need to go to the bathroom. Doesn't need to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I'm sure somebody will come up with that soon,
Yeah.
But you're right. It doesn't need a break. So robots add that missing piece. People need a downtime. I'm a human being too. I mean, you get to a point where you just hit a wall. You're no longer efficient at some point. Robots' efficiency stays for as long as there's power to it. So
awesome. Thank you, Larry. Now, when it does, let's say you have a fully automated system, I always kind of think of like on TV shows and movies and stuff like that, that there's some otherworldly thing that happens that would bring everything to a screeching halt. What would be like the challenges of having a fully automated system? What are the things that you have to kind of look out for? Is it something that can be hacked from the outside? Is there anything like that people would have to worry about?
Who's starting with this one, Jake?
If you want to, you can, or Jeff, whoever. Just as far as, yeah, like what are the outside concerns of an automated system?
I think we've dealt with some of that over the past couple of years when it comes to, you know, what can shut something down like that, supply chain. You know, having availability of parts and even people, you know, having the resources. Whether it's automated or not, there still need to be some level of resource to be able to maintain and support. So I think that's one. Certainly, are there potentials, depending on what type of automation system it is, potentials for hacking and cyber crime, and absolutely, those are concerns I think we see every day, and some things are pretty scary. That was my thoughts on that.
Okay.
I agree, and I think Jeff hit the nail on the head. Cybersecurity is becoming a real world every day. You know, it's not just the government, it's not just the IRS, it's not just a credit card company. How many companies do you hear that get held hostage?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to shut your systems down if you don't send us $50,000. I mean, it created a whole new division of the FBI. I mean, and local police departments. Let's face it. You know, what people see on TV, and Jake, you hit the nail on the head too.
Yeah.
People see this stuff and it's so futuristic, and they portray it as, you know, artificial intelligence, and now artificial intelligence is evil because it's going to take over the world. And you know what, man? If that's what's going to happen, I had parents. I'm subservient enough to go, sure, no problem, and then do what I want anyhow. So amazingly, I think that we are at the tip, just the very beginning of what automation is really capable of. Even though automation has been around for many years, I think people are finally starting to understand that automation can be just about anything. The limitation, again, is people's ability to understand how automation can help their process. If there's no buy-in, you're wasting your time. Move on to the next guy who wants to invest and sees the value in what automation can do for them, not what it's going to take away, but what it's going to add, and what it's going to give their workforce to make their lives easier, more predictable, healthier. You know, you don't have a guy lifting up 100-pound chunk of steel. You know, how many times have we been in shops where we're watching a guy hang on a 6-foot bar trying to tighten a bolt? You know, automation is allowed for, you know, automatic torquing of things, automatic measurement of those processes, automatic measurement of just about anything now.
Welding.
The ability to take that data, feed it back to a system that optimizes it and makes it more efficient. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh, thank you, Larry. So just to kind of wrap things up today on the automation conversation, you guys talked about how we're kind of just almost at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to automation. So Jeff, I'll start with you on this one. What are the things kind of that you're working on that you could see becoming more important in the automation industry in the future? What kind of technologies are showing promise? What are you excited to see in the coming years when it comes to automation?
I think the things, you know, specifically for what we are seeing and what we're working with daily, I think vision, you know, being robotics with vision, and, you know, vision in general, first of all, it's come a long ways in the past 10 years. I only see that getting even more advanced from where we are today. But for us, that is a very important part of what we are trying to do now, and what we're working with. Some of the unknowns on my side that are kind of scary, but you know, the whole AI portion of technology and how it relates to automation, and I mean, that's a big unknown for a lot of us. I think there's some ideas out there on how that could be applied, or it might be applied. Personally, I think that's a little bit scary yet. I think maybe in the right application, there's something there, but that, you know, that's an area I'm sure will develop in the future. Where it's going to go and how it plays with what we're trying to do is yet to be determined.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. So Larry, yeah, we'll end with you. What, you know, as far as automation, what are the technologies that you guys are kind of working on? What are the things that you could see really taking hold in the automation industry in the near future?
I think the ability to take and simultaneously transmit energy and data through the same base unit and take that data and use it to improve your processes. You know, you can give people all the information in the world. If they choose not to use it, the data is useless. So reality is, again, as long as the customer sees value in it, I think that's going to be unlimited, Jake. I think, again, I said this in a conversation before the seminar. I wish I was going to be around another 20 years to see what's going to happen next. I'm kind of glad I'm not going to be around another 20 years to see what's going to happen next. I think the limitation is going to be people's ability to understand the value of, for lack of a better term, robots working with other robots, or robots interacting and having intuitive ability to, hey, we've been doing this way. If we move 3 inches this way and we get a more direct move, I think you're going to see more intuitive movements and more intuitive automation. I think you're also going to see automation is going to be part of process improvement. I think it's going to be part of any kind of improvement in the future, because again, it's reliable, it's predictable, it's flexible. It's, you know, again, I think I said that about 11 times this time.
Just fine.
Thanks. I think as long as you have the ability to have an open mind and realize that what you're getting today is going to be different than what you get tomorrow, and how to use that information to your advantage, that's the limitation. Taking that information and using it and adapting it to your situation, because everybody's situation is different. Again, you can see 5 guys making the same parts and they're made 5 totally different ways. For them, it's the most effective, efficient way. I think the more artificial intelligence comes into this and kind of predictable robotics and predictable automation, you'll have the ability to improve process and just do it naturally. It'll become a natural progression for every single thing you do. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Larry. Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us today. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking about automation. It was a great time as always. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for all your time today.
Thank you, Jake. And as always, Larry, good speaking with you.
Jeff, you too. I'll see you in a week.
All right.
Take care, guys. Jake, again, thanks for allowing us to be involved in this. This is a very valuable tool. Hopefully people will catch on to this technology of more web-based training and education, because I think this is invaluable. It's an investment in an hour's worth of time without having to get on an airplane or even move from your desk. And I think the more people understand this, the more successful this format's going to be. And I think you guys, being on the cutting edge of it, are doing a great job. And thank you for always accommodating what we're trying to deliver as a message.
Our pleasure, Larry. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon, guys.
All right, take care. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
You can find more Manufacturing Matters plus the MFG Radio Network's other podcasts on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, or on our websites at todaysmedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.